dear hearts. I'm Caterina Giglio. All my friends call me Cat. Welcome to the studio. I'm really happy to have you here today. Like everybody else, we're at home, but we get to communicate this way, and it makes me so happy to be able to share with you. Today I thought we were going to be making a brand new travel journal to Florence, Italy and to Zurich, Switzerland. But obviously we're not going to be doing that. So I wanted to share a technique that I came up with for a tiny book, and I think you're going to really like it. Okay, so you know how much I love little fabric and paper books. These are all my little concertinas, and they're basically fabric and paper collage books. I absolutely love making them, and usually I have a very set idea about what I'm going to infuse into these little books. And this little book I made because I've been going in the garden every morning and working in the garden. I wanted to come up with a fabric book that was a real book, but it wasn't as flimsy as some fabric books. You know how when you turn the page it kind of flops over. So I wanted to come up with something a little bit more substantial, but yet still felt like a fabric book. So I wanted to share it with you. This is, I made it from an old apron, probably 20s or 30s, and one side is more kind of frayed and worn out more than the other side inside of the pocket. And then I know somebody's going to ask me about this little tie and how to do it. If I don't tell you how to do it, someone's going to ask me. So it's super simple. You just pull the ribbon together, hold them tight together in your hand, and then twist just like this, and it just makes a little rosette. It's kind of fun. You can stitch it into place too if you want it to be, you have to pull it tight in here like this. There you go. So super easy, simple to do, and then just pull it out. It just comes apart, but it looks sweet. So this gave me an opportunity to use up a lot of Victorian ephemera and old pieces of cloth. And if you remember on my studio tour, we had little bags of scraplets and bits. And so this is what I use them for. I use them for my little books, and they all have some kind of subject or particular thought in mind, something that I'm working out or chewing on, and so it's actually just a little book. You can see all the different pages, and the pages are there are antique netting, bridal veil, and hand-painted papers that I made, and then a lot of antique ephemera and new bits of old or cardboard pieces and little shreds from books and lace bits. It's just really fun. This one was inspired by my garden in the morning. You can see that. I just really love it. And and I love the strength of it. It will actually stand up, but yet it's fabric. You can tell it's fabric. Okay, so how did I do that? I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so the book consists of two pieces of fabric, and what I sandwiched in between is cotton paper. Now you could use mixed media paper, or you could use a really thin cardboard. But you know how I love cotton paper, and cotton is got such a nice rag content in it. You can stitch through it. It glues really well. It works so well with fabric. I just absolutely love it. L-O-V-E, love it. So today, what I thought we would do is make another little book. But we're not going to make the identical same book because that would be boring. So we're going to make a little book about Italy. I thought we would use bark cloth. Now, if you're too young to remember bark cloth or even know what bark cloth is, it's really highly textured, kind of rough fabric. And it was super, it's been made for years and years and years. I mean, since the beginning of time, probably. Bark cloth has been around forever. But it was super popular from 1940s to the 60s. And so this piece of cloth is probably about as old as I am. Anyway, I've never been super fond of it. But the other day when I pulled it out of my stash, I looked at it and it was inside out, and I thought, oh my gosh, I absolutely love it. I really love it. So we're going to glue the good sides together and use the outside for the book, and I think it's going to turn out really, really fabulously. And then so the dimensions to this are roughly like 5.5-ish by 3 inches. And the reason I'm giving you, these kind of out there dimensions is because, I make these little books to move away from perfectionism, because we all know perfectionism is a form of paralysis, and it will keep us from doing real authentic work. So each little book represents a moment in time that I put and poured my emotion or my passion or my dream or my desire into it, and I didn't care if it came out straight or if it was gorgeous. It fit the moment. So now I cut the cotty paper into 3 pieces, and that's going to fit inside. We're going to glue it together and then fit it in between. We're going to sandwich it, and that's going to form our cover. So we're going to do that right now. Okay, so I'm going to use just regular gel matte medium, and I'm going to coat the fabric and then put my cotty paper down. And I know there are going to be some of you out there that say, oh, I like the other side better. I'm sorry. I know. I just knew that'll happen. So, okay, now, so there's the covers right there. And now we're going to glue the spine. The spine is roughly 3/4 of an inch by 3 inches. But there again, you don't have to follow my dimensions, and that's why I give you the 3.5-ish and whatever, because you get to make it your own. It's part of what being in the studio is all about. It's about a sense of freedom, and right now, couldn't we all do with a dose of freedom? And the studio gives us that. Okay, now I'm just going to glue the rest of it together. We've reinforced it. It's going to be a little sturdier. Oops, stay. And we're going to have a book cover. How cool is that? Don't you just love the yummy frayed edges? Now I'm in love with bark cloth again. Now I'm going to use it for everything. Now I'll look for it. Okay, the pages of this little book, it's going to bounce all over here, are made from a white antique tea towel, just like this. And I just cut it up into pieces, and then I reinforced those pieces to make pages, to make my signatures. So each one is glued together with tissue paper. And that created a stiff enough page that still feels like cloth, but yet is easy to collage with, stitch through. It made a really yummy surface. I was just so tickled when I did it and created it. So we made, I took the tissue paper out, laid it out, and then cut all my little pieces, rough cut them with the scissors, and then glued them down onto the tissue paper just like this. And then you can just cut those out. And then if you want them to be a little bit straighter, you can use a rotary cutter to cut them. If you don't mind the fact that they're uneven, which is what I just love. I love that there's a scallop edge. You know, I kept the scallop edges, and I just thought it was just so yummy. Anyway, so that's how I did it. I left one on the page just so you could see how I did it. So I did a whole sheet of them and then cut them up. And we're going to have actually 24 pages. We're just doing 2, 4, 6 together. So 2 pages each for each signature, which was plenty for this book to play with. Okay, so then all I did was I stitched them. So I'm going to stitch this one. You don't have to worry about the stitches showing because we're going to glue it into the book. Now, you could stitch it all the way through the spine of the book. Absolutely, you could do that. But I know that there are a lot of people out there that really don't care for sewing. So you could actually just glue it into the book. But I wanted to stitch it because I wanted the threads coming off of the book. I love the look of that. So I'm just going to stitch this together, and then we'll clamp them down and we'll glue them in. Okay, so I finished stitching it. You can use any kind of stitch you want. If it's not going to show, there's no point in getting too crazy about it, although you could see it on the inside, and you could use a contrasting color if you want. I used upholstery thread, and this is an embroidery needle. And now I'm just going to put all of the signatures together so that we can glue it. And I want all my tails at the end, any kind of tails that I've got going on. You could cut those off if you don't want them to show. And I'm going to match up my stitches pretty carefully and then clamp it down so that we can glue it into our book. Now, it's going to get a little fatter because we're going to collage all the pages. So like this book, it didn't seem like it quite filled the book, but then once I collaged it, it filled it quite well. Okay, so we're just going to clamp the other side. And now we're going to be able to glue it. So I'm just applying glue to the spine, and then I'm going to turn these over and glue them. Now they're going to glue together slightly, but that's okay. That's not going to be a problem. And then we're going to put it in here, just like this. Okay, and I'm going to use my fingers to position it. And now we're going to let that dry. I'm going to clamp it back down. We're going to let this dry, and then we'll come right back. Okay, so it's almost dry, pretty close to being dry. Aren't the pages just yummy? I just love them. And I love all the embroidery on it. And now whoever did this took all this time to embroider. That work lives on. And I just love that idea because no one's going to really use these towels anymore. So our little book is taking shape now. Now I've got to peruse all of my wonderful pieces and try to decide what I'm going to do for the cover. All right, so I went through my stash and I pulled out Antique Bridal Veil, another one, hand-painted papers that I made. Old bits and shreds of antique handwriting, and lots of wonderful Italian stamps. Aren't they yummy? They're just fabulous. My friend Elfie Sila sent them to me. I love those. And then I have some old Italian letters, and doesn't this just break your heart? Isn't this just gorgeous? It came in the mail with somebody's grandparents, and then they put their coffee on the back. I just love that. So I've got those, and then I have this map of Italy that somebody sent me, and they circled Giglio Island here for me so that I could see Giglio. And what else? Leonardo, a Madonna, antique letter, all kinds of wonderful bits, more Leonardo, some Italian book pages, and a lily, which is Giglio, and just little bits. So I'm going to do some collaging for you. We'll do like 3 pages and show you kind of what's going into this book. It's going to be very meaningful for me, and I hope you enjoy it. When I'm working in a little book, what I like to do is to group little bits of collage materials together, things that just catch my eye. And then I put them together, I lay them out, and then decide where I want them all to go in my book. What I really loved about this piece was that it looked like it just really wanted to live on the cover. And so I think I'm going to do that. So I've mixed fabric and an old stamp, canceled stamp. This piece of fabric had a little bit of collage that had been ripped off and left on there, and just I love the way it all comes together. So I think I'm going to glue that together and put that on the cover. And then the rest of these pieces are coming together really well. I love this. This piece is just going to be yummy inside the book here. So I'm just going to put this, I'm going to glue these bits together and then get that on the cover. Okay, so when you're working with really tiny little bits like this, my solution is to put them together and then glue them together as carefully as possibly, keeping them in place. That way you don't lose your composition. You can go back and glue it even better than what you did. Make sure that you get all the edges and all the pieces together, but then you have it together at least so that it doesn't move around on you. Because if you love your composition the way you composed it and you pull it apart, then you're not going to get it back exactly the way you wanted it to be. So that's how I do it. You can try it and see if you like it. And then we're going to put it down here. Now you could probably use PVA. It'll take a little longer to dry than gel medium, but you could definitely do it. Don't you just love the way that hangs off there? Oh, it's just so yummy. Okay, this bit came from an old album, and sometimes, you know, they just crumble and fall apart. But why would you throw that away? It's just a gorgeous bit. And I'm just going to put this piece of fabric right underneath it. And you don't have to glue everything down either. You remember in this book, we have a piece right here, so it just flips up. Sometimes it gets folded or crushed, but it just slightly covers up the drawing. It gives a sense of mystery, and you're wondering, you know, what exactly is that underneath there? And it just adds to the enchantment of the book. Okay, so I just love this Leonardo piece, and this old letter cancel. I just think it's just gorgeous. So I'm going to put that there. And this bit that came from an old travel book on Italia. And it's going to hang off the book like that. I can't wait to finish it. Well, we're at Ciao for now, and I really enjoyed making this tiny book today, and perhaps you'll make one of your own. It can be any subject you want. Right now is a great time to make it because we all have a lot of time at home to create something special, something meaningful, enthuse it with our emotion and our feeling. And I send you all my heartfelt love, and I promise I won't touch my face, but send you big smoochy kisses. Ciao for now.